Hello and welcome to Chapter 2, Activating an Entrepreneurial Mindset from the Entrepreneurship 3rd Edition textbook. In this chapter, we're going to start looking at how to activate an entrepreneurial mindset as a journey, whether that's to launch your own company, your own nonprofit, whether it's to work within a company or to take a management or leadership role in your company, in a company, or within your own life as well. It's not difficult to build an entrepreneurial mindset, but it is work. It's consistency work. It's just like, if you want to get better in your health, for example, if you want to get healthy and have a tip-top shape, right? Have a tip-top shape body, and you have to go work out. It's that sort of mindset, right? In order to have a healthy looking body, what the medical experts would say is like you have to do some form of exercise. So it's that continuous habit of exercise that you have to do. And in the same way, the entrepreneurial mindset, it's a consistency practice of a method that you have to put in place in order to build the entrepreneurial mindset. And that's what we're going to talk about in this chapter. And once you start building that habit and practicing the entrepreneurial mindset methods, it's really going to make it, you're going to see much more higher results in your work than not doing so. And we'll see, and we'll talk about why that is so. So what is a mindset? When you talk about mindset, you hear that word, and of course it has to do with the mind and how you set things and look at things. One of the ways you look at it is, let's first look at what is a mindset, and let's differentiate between a fixed and a growth mindset, right? A fixed mindset, which is what Carol Dweck looks at it, is a way of thinking in which people perceive their talents and their traits, right? It's looking smart all the time, take constructive criticism personally, right? A fixed mindset, they look at another person and say, oh, they just had good luck, or they had everything given to them, right? Or brains and talent is not enough, right? You got to look smart all the time. And so, they have a fixed mindset that it is what it is, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't change things, and there's obstacles in the roads, and so it wasn't done by me, so therefore I can't move forward. On the opposite side, a growth mindset is a way in which people think and believe that their abilities can develop through dedication, effort, and hard work. Now, what I mean by hard work, and I'm going to just define it here, is that you can sit in front of a computer for 12 hours and define it as hard work, but you got absolutely nothing done. Like, I've known people who can sit behind a computer for hours and hours upon and get nothing done. They just sit there and watch a bunch of YouTube videos and just say this and that, but they get absolutely nothing done. What I mean by hard work is like you actually sitting down and I'm going to accomplish these three goals today. I'm going to write a blog post. I am going to get the outline done for my next ebook, and I'm going to post 2 LinkedIn posts along with a Facebook post. That's a goal mindset, and that's something accomplished. I worked hard today. That's the main 3 things I got done today from my work. And so that might be by hard work, and of course putting in effort. Brains and talent are the starting point of success, but it doesn't define it. There are a lot of smart people who are very talented people who are also lazy. And so it's a starting point, but it's not going to get you at the end if you don't put in the effort and the dedication. And of course, eager to enhance their learning and training and practice. And of course, they don't see failure as an opportunity to improve. So, of course, you can learn from a growth mindset. You can definitely take action, become aware of the voices in your head and questions your ability. And, of course, recognize that you have a choice to interpret what that is telling you. You can say, man, I suck. Like, I've been really bad at it. And you can believe it, and you're probably going to suck. But if you believe that, I'm going to get better, it really does. Like, there is really a psychology behind believing that you can accomplish something in your life, or whatever that goal is for your life. But of course, you have to take action. One of the biggest things is that, yes, you can believe to achieve, but you have to take action, right? So, for example, if your goal is to lose 20 pounds and you keep thinking about it and you keep watching these motivational videos, eventually you have to take action, get up out of the couch or out of your chair and actually go to the gym or go outside and do some exercise, right? I mean, there's really nothing, you got to take some form of action. And so that, of course, what the entrepreneur mindset, what that is, if you type in entrepreneur mindset, there is a lot of definitions out there for the entrepreneur mindset when you look at it and you define it. But for this chapter, for this book, and for this class, we're going to define it as a mental process that enables one to recognize and act on valuable opportunities. And so no matter the conditions that are around there or uncertain conditions, you find and you recognize opportunities. And you're able to accomplish those goals, right? So you have this an ability, this mindset that you recognize and act on opportunities, right? You see opportunities where others don't see it. Again, it can be when you start a business, or it can be within you are in an organization. And it's really a mental process, right? We look at some of the cognitive strategies. How do you solve problems, right? Do you reason? Do you analyze? Do you experiment? Like, what a lot of folks, everybody doesn't have the same techniques to solve problems, right? Some people, their cognitive is that they have to have a reasoning, they have to analyze the situation, or they have to experiment, right? Some people just do it, like, let me experiment and see what happens. When looking at the understanding of the metacognition, to understand and be aware of how one thinks and one uses to think and make decisions, right? And we look at the entrepreneurial efficacy, right? The belief that entrepreneurs have the ability to start new ventures, and of course the mindset to start something new, and a strong procurement to action, right? So, you have that really strong ability to start something and follow through and go through. And again, it takes effort, persistence, and perseverance. If you don't have that entrepreneurial mindset, it doesn't mean that you are a failure in life or that you can't accomplish anything. That is anything but the truth. Like, that is not always the case, right? So you can have that an ability. You can build out your mindset, but if you don't have it or if you don't want it, that's totally fine. No one's forcing you to have that mindset. And of course, the entrepreneurial mindset, of course, creating that value. The essence of entrepreneurship is to create value. So again, what is that value? And that value, of course, is not easily defined, right? Because when we look at value, it can be defined differently in different categories or in different for different categories or for different markets, right? For example, if you're selling a product or service, it can bring value to one group of customers, but perhaps not to another set of customers. Right? For example, if you're a construction worker, or if you're doing things at home, if you're building things, physically building things, right? Something of value can be a store like Home Depot or Menards or Lowe's, right? A hardware store. That can be of value to you. But if you're not in construction, if you're not building or doing renovations, that's not going to be of value to you. Or like if you're into the crafts, right? A craft store is going to be of value to you. It may not be the same value to someone in construction. So you can see how value can be defined loosely. But you bring value, right? You bring value to that particular market. Recognizing and acting on opportunities. So if you see an opportunity, you act on it, right? You see the possibility. When you talk about opportunity, we're talking about the possibility of generating value through introduction of a unique, novel, or desirable product or service where it wasn't there before. So you see the opportunity and you take it and you launch a new product or service. That can be for a company that launches, and or even if you're working within a company, you can see the opportunity and you create it, right? Of course, that mindset impacts that opportunity recognition. If you're that person who's a fixed mindset, who doesn't see opportunity, who's just wants to do their job and that's it, and be told what to do, then of course you're not going to recognize opportunities. Those that have that growth mindset, those who seek those opportunities are going to easily recognize those opportunities. Another thing too, with when you're looking at the entrepreneurial mindset, of course, is the adaptability and resilience, right? You have the capability to adapt to the environment. You have the capacity to recover from challenges. You don't let setbacks or failures put you back, and you have that resilience. And that's really only a way that comes from you. I can teach you how to be resilient or how to come back from unexpected challenges and failures or setbacks, but it has to be within you, right? You have to want it. You have to go out and be adaptable and resilient. Successful companies are able to adapt, right? Whatever the changing market is, they're able to adapt. Um, Decision making with limited information. A lot of times you have to take quick actions and make quick decisions with very limited information. Sometimes you're not going to have all the information given to you. You're going to have to go seek it, and sometimes you're going to have to make decisions based on limited information. Sometimes, because if you have overload of information, you're probably going to, if you have so much information available to you, you're probably going to overthink it and not make a decision. But when you have very little information, you're going to make those decisions. And of course, taking small, quick actions is going to allow you to really seek if there's an opportunity there as well. How your why statement connects to your entrepreneurial mindset, like what's your North Star? Why is it that I do what I do? Or why is it that we're doing what we're doing? If you don't have a North Star, if you don't have a mission that you're trying to accomplish, it's going to be very difficult to connect the why to your entrepreneurial mindset. This is why I'm doing what I am doing. This is why we're doing what we're doing, because we want to bring value to our customer base, or we want to solve world hunger, or we want to solve hunger in a community. Whatever that Northern Star is, whatever that motivation is, whatever that why is, you have to be able to connect that to you're gonna have to be able to connect that to the opportunities, and of course it will help you with your entrepreneurial mindset. Again, the entrepreneurial passion, right? The intensive passion and emotion. When you have that passion, the thing that when you really focus on that goal, like time is going to be not of essence, because you're going to be so ingrained in that passion that you're not going to see it as a time waster. You're going to see it as something that you're passionate about, and as something that you want to move forward with and you want to continue working on. And of course, developing your passion through growth, right? People who, again, they want to grow into it. And then, of course, look at confirmation bias, right? Again, you want to be careful with that confirmation bias to only see the positive information. Don't ignore the criticism or ignore information that is not pertinent to you, because sometimes there is fair criticism, right? I mean, yes, you don't want to look at criticism as bad, because some criticism is not worthy of taking in, but there are some criticism that you want to take into account when you're trying to do something and get that information back so that you can work on your craft or your opportunity that you're working on. The why statement, right? Again, you really know why you're doing what you're doing, right? And look at the 4 characteristics that Simon Sinek, who was very famous about leadership. You can watch his YouTube videos. He looks at the 4 characteristics of an effective why statement. It's simple and clear. It's focused on the impact. It's truthful to who you are rather than inspirational, and it connects to all aspects of your life. So therefore, if you want to come up with the why statement, focus on those 4 characteristics. Again, build a habit, right? It is very important to have, when you build a habit, it's the unconscious pattern of behavior that's carried out often and regularly, right? We all have habits. Everybody has a habit. You wake up, you go to bed, or you wake up, brush your teeth, right? It's the habits that you build. Some of us have built good habits, some of us have built bad habits. And it's very difficult to, once you've established a routine, once you establish a habit, it becomes very difficult to break out of that habit. For a long time, I had a habit of having my cell phone next to me and use it as my alarm clock. I stopped using my phone as my alarm clock because I would directly go to it every morning, and of course, it's not always good for you. So I stopped doing that, and I built new habits of not using my phone as a alarm clock. Also, I had a habit of always printing out a lot of documents and using paper to write all my notes, to write things down. I started to build a habit of using electronic formats to write down my notes and my to-do list, and that took a while. But of course, you decide to build patterns. Of course, there's a mind shift, right? Of when you're doing this, you shift from an existing mindset to a more entrepreneurial one, and you take the courage to take action with certain ambiguity, but you take action, right? The creativity habit. We look at that, the creativity, right? Availability to use knowledge in new ways, right? With an entrepreneurial mindset, you are better able to spot problems and generate new and valuable solutions. Um, Again, you are able to of course look at ways to envision success while also preparing for failure. You value autonomy in deciding and acting. You assume responsibility for problems and failures. So you're really driven by intense commitment to your idea. The improvisation habit, right? The art of spontaneously creating something without preparation. That's why I always say to people when this happens, and is to always carry a notebook or carry some form of writing down your notes or your ideas, because you never know when that improvisation happens, and usually things happen when you least expect it. And of course, especially relevant when uncertainty is high and ability to react is essential. Again, it really can help you with managing fear. And of course, when we look at this as well, self doubt is a barrier to improvisation. One of the biggest enemies we have is ourselves, right? That is sometimes our biggest enemies that we have, and we have to fight that self doubt. People who engage in improvisation are more tolerant to failure, more tolerant of failure, because it opens their minds, it improves their listening skills, and it releases their needs of control. One of the things too is that you have to release that control syndrome. Like, you're not going to be able to control everything. You're really going to have to sometimes let things go because there are external factors that are out of your control. Of course, fear causes self-doubts and insecurities. So we all have some form of self-doubts and insecurities, but we have to be able to battle those insecurities. We've had a fear management habit, failure to be part of the learning process, being an entrepreneur, being celebrated. A lot of times, even in workplaces, people don't want to celebrate that entrepreneurial mindset. They don't want you to think like that or be like that. They just want you to do as told. Now, of course, the self leadership habit, right? Influence and control your behavior, self goal setting, self reward. We talk about the self leadership habit. We're talking about being your own leader, right? You can influence and control your own behavior and your action, your thinking. Having control of your own thinking, having control of your actions and your behavior is extremely important. Again, it is very difficult to control the external factors in life. You really don't have control over other people, but you have the control over yourself and the way you think and the way you behave and the way you act. Behavior focused strategies, of course, helps you increase self-awareness, how you're dealing with people in unpleasant tasks, your self-observation, wearing awareness to how, when, and why you behave the way you do in certain circumstances, your goal setting, right? What are your individual goals for yourself, and rewarding yourself as well. Self-punishment or self-correcting, right? I always believe that you should have some form of of feedback and correcting that if you see something wrong. Natural reward strategies, right? Rewarding yourself for things that you're doing, not necessarily always but purchasing something, but rewarding yourself. That is important. And constructive thought patterns, right? Manage your form of positive and proactive ways of thinking that can benefit performance. And of course, the kind of here as we wrap up here on this, right? One of the important things is having a reflection habit. I have the habit of at the end of the day writing down what I've accomplished. Did I accomplish my goal for the day and what I set out to do? Having a reflection, writing it down is also very important because you reflect on the situations that happened, the events of the day, things that you were working on. How can I improve? Did I do something right? Did I do something wrong? And how can I put this into practice? And how can I do better for tomorrow? So, reflection on practice and in practice, right? When it comes to on practice, the process in which you do something, reflect on what you did. And when it comes to in practice, takes place as you're doing something, such as pitching to an investor or dealing with a supplier change. So, practice makes perfect. The more you do something, the more you get better at. If you want to break a habit, it takes some time, but you can break a habit and you can replace it with something better. Always work on yourself, do better for yourself, write down your goals, have your North Star, reflect on what you've done, protect know that you can only control yourself. Yourself, it's very difficult to control the external factors. That is why you have to behave, and of course, be careful as how you react to external factors. And that wraps up chapter 2 of this textbook.